Hi, welcome to Coaster Mania. I'm Micah, and today I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on Six Flags Great Adventure. I'm really starting to think that Katie and I might be bad omens for the larger coasters we ride. Back in August of 2021, we rode Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point. Shortly after that, it closed. In 2023, we rode King to Ka. Now that's closing. This year, we rode Superman Escape from Krypton at Six Flags Magic Mountain, and while unconfirmed, it seems like that could be closing too. Anyways, does Great Adventure really provide for a great adventure? Let's go ahead and review this park to find out. Six Flags Great Adventure was the 14th park that Katie and I visited together. We went during the summer of 2024 and got a pretty good experience, all things considered. We spent 3.5 days at the park, using most of our time to capture the photos and videos you'll see here. Six Flags Great Adventure has been in the chain since the 70s and is one of the few staple Six Flags parks. If you're familiar with my reviews, you'll recognize the structure I'm using. I'll be breaking up my opinions on the park into 10 sections. I'll go through first impressions, theming, immersion, layout, amenities, food, staff, coasters, flat rides, and finally operations. To tie everything together, I will crunch the numbers and give an average score. So let's go ahead and dive in. This park is kinda odd in how it feels like it's in the absolute middle of nowhere. I know it is somewhat near Trenton, New Jersey, but in isolation, this park just feels like it's in a completely random place. When pulling up to the park, seeing the behemoth that it is, or sadly was, King to Ka was impressive. I really like the placement of this coaster. Once you step in, the front entrance feels designed well and has a nice main street. It's not until you get deeper into the park where you notice that Six Flags charm all over the place. That isn't to say that all things are bad. The landscaping at the park is nice, but there are plenty of areas here that could use a ton of love, and hopefully with the new ownership, things might change. Overall, I'd rate the first impressions of Six Flags Great Adventure a 7.5 out of 10. This is where this park, unsurprisingly, is a mixed bag. Most of the areas of the park don't have a completely cohesive theme, except for a couple. There are a few DC superhero themed areas that look okay, but you can tell that Six Flags cheaped out here big time. There is some overall decent looking theming around the King to Ka and Runaway Mine Train area, but there wasn't a ton when it comes to the on-ride areas. It isn't the worst out of all the parks we've been to, but it's nowhere near close to being the best either. Overall, I'd rate the theming at Great Adventure a 6.5 out of 10. This is one of the strongest points of this park. Since Great Adventure is located where it is, there is almost nothing around it except forest. This means that the park is completely isolated and is amazing for this purpose. So far, out of most of the parks we've been to, this is the most immersive park in this way by far. Even on the Ferris wheel and on King to Ka, you're almost in your own world. Overall, I'd rate the immersion at Great Adventure a 10 out of 10. Great Adventure has a layout that's kind of in the shape of a bulbous T. There is the entrance in the middle, and then you can choose to go left or right. If you're on one end of the park and want to cross over, there's really only two ways to do it. Walk all the way across, or take the gondola part of the way. The park isn't gargantuan, but it's still large enough to make this quite the trek. The paths on either side are fairly winding, but they're easy to navigate since the coasters here are so huge. You can just use them as landmarks and see them over most obstructions. The layout was easy to figure out and didn't pose any major talents. Overall, I'd rate the layout of Great Adventure an 8.5 out of 10. Great Adventure actually does a decent job with its amenities. There are plenty of places to sit and relax, plenty of restrooms, and shade is easy enough to find. Granted, most of the park does lack shade, but there are plenty of indoor areas to escape the sun. The area around Green Lantern and Superman Ultimate Flight was probably the worst location in the park. There is absolutely no tree cover here, and you're walking around on black asphalt. If it's hot out, don't stay here longer than you need to. Overall, I'd rate the amenities at Six Flags Great Adventure an 8 out of 10. Six Flags has your typical amusement park food, and most of it isn't great. Sure, at some places you can overpay for a prepackaged salad if you don't want a gut bomb. There is at least plenty of variety of greasy food, but this ain't it, Chief. Really, there isn't anything unique here in regards to their food offerings. Most of it was fine, but mediocre. Overall, I'd rate the food at Great Adventure a 4 out of 10. A good portion of the staff here actually did alright. There was honestly no major complaints I had about anyone that we encountered. People were friendly and treated us well. There were plenty of times that rides went down at some point, and it was nice to see the maintenance team being so quick to respond. On some rides, there was a decent amount of enthusiasm from the ride ops, which helped quite a bit with the experience. I can't say any of them went above and beyond to help us out, but the situation never called for that anyways. Overall, I'd rate the staff at Great Adventure a 9 out of 10. It's too bad King Dukat and Green Lantern are closing. Does this mean we'll see a couple of new coasters in their place? I hope so. There's no other way around it though. Great Adventure still has a bunch of legendary coasters. There's the insanity of El Toro, the airtime and positives from Nitro, the funkiness that is Skull Mountain and the Dark Knight. There's Superman Ultimate Flight, and Medusa's there, I suppose. Also, the Flash. There's a good portion of variety here, and I hope that whatever replaces the two closing coasters is equally just as good. Also, can you guys work on keeping these rides running? During our visit, every coaster broke down at least once, if not multiple times. Overall, I'd rate the coasters at Great Adventure a 9.5 out of 10. While there isn't the largest collection of flat rides at Great Adventure, what it does have is quite unique. Unfortunately, the top spin the park had is closing down alongside the two roller coasters, but it still has a few other rides that are top tier. Rides like Cyborg Cyberspin, Wonder Woman Lasso of Truth, and the Giant Wheel do a great job at displaying this. Honestly, more parks need more unique flat rides. There's too many scramblers and bumper cars out there. Overall, I'd rate the flat rides at Great Adventure a 9.5 out of 10. Like many of the parks we've been to, Great Adventure is a mixed bag when it comes to their operations. We saw some additional changes to their procedure in regards to loading trains, and this slowed down the dispatches just a bit more. Most of the rides were fairly slow like this, with a few exceptions. The ride crews at Jersey Devil Coaster, Nitro, and El Toro did their best to keep trains moving as fast as possible. At the rest of the rides around the park, they were not doing this. It always surprises me how inconsistent the operations can be at a park from ride to ride. Overall, I'd rate the operations at Great Adventure a 6 out of 10. Six Flags Great Adventure is a park that seemingly has a ton of promise, but when we went, it felt like the McDonald's of the amusement park world. Just kinda cheap, not so well maintained, and formulaic. Moving through the scores, I gave first impressions a 7.5 out of 10, theming a 6.5, immersion a 10, layout an 8.5, amenities an 8, food a 4, staff a 9, coasters a 9.5, flat rides a 9.5, and finally operations a 6 out of 10. This all adds up to an average of 7.8 out of 10, a solid C for Great Adventure. Hopefully, with the upcoming investments this park will get, we can see some much needed improvements. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like and comment below and hit that bell icon. Special thanks to our Patreon supporter, Future Collective. $1 a month helps me bring even more content to you guys, and I even have some exclusive content coming, so check it out. Check the description below to find links to the rest of our pages. Thanks for watching the video, and ride on, Coaster Maniacs.